As I entered the main bar, I immediately took notice of a rat-like annoying individual trying to steal drinks from the other passengers. I felt a discreet discomfort in my abdominal area. I decided that my own need for a drink at the time was far more important than some shenanigan being done, and frankly I do not know if I really cared one way or the other. But I knew I needed that drink. It had been the worst of days, and I also realized that the conflict even might result in me ending up in trouble. I did not need any more trouble. "Give me a drink," I shouted at the barkeeper, who was more than willing to do my biddings. Obviously, my appearance at the time did not leave any room for discussion. As I was standing at the bar, minding my own business, I noticed a movement right behind my left shoulder. It was the rat-like annoying individual, and he was trying to steal my drink. I grabbed him by his mucous neck and shoved him up against the bar. I felt a tingling sensation in the lower back of my head, like something warm and mushy. I had only meant to teach the poor bastard a lesson up to that time, but when I looked into his disgusting small rodent-like eyes, I realized that the only one thing that I could do was to make sure that the vermin I saw before me would never take another breath of precious air again. That would be considered as a waste of valuable assets. I also perceived that I was in for a really good time, and I desperately needed some amusement. As I broke his nose with my forehead, the transport which we travelled upon suddenly made a sharp turn, and we both fell down on the deck. The little miserable wretch tried to make a run for the door, but he slipped on the blood that gushed out of his nose, and he fell again. That really irritated me. I was also convinced that the whole falling down issue was entirely his fault. I was not especially pleased with that either. I grabbed him by his greasy hair and started to pound his head into a pair of marble pillars that marked the entrance to the establishment. Every time I smacked his contusions alternate into each pillar, the hair on my body bristled up. It was an enjoyable sensation. I wanted more. My throat reminded me of my need for other refreshments, so I halted and grabbed the human scoundrel by his left foot and dragged him in direction of the bar. He started to make some most disagreeable guttural sounds. I did not approve with that at all. I realized that his prospects of making any further inarticulate sounds would reduce considerably if he had no tongue. So I pulled out my blade. Blood splashed into my eyes as I cut the vermin's speech organ out of his fetid gape. I kicked him twice in the chest, just to draw his attention to the fact that I was displeased with him covering my visage with his disgusting body fluids. I roared with laughter when I perceived that he was a mushmouth and no more. When I reached the bar, I eagerly raised the glass to my lips and drank the contents. But it was not enough to put out the fire that had lit up inside me. I looked at the sorry excuse for a man lying shivering at my feet and recognized that he would stay alive not much longer if I did not proceed with some caution. I mean, that would mean no more amusement for me, and I did not welcome that outcome. The barkeeper poured me yet another drink. I believe that he had come to the conclusion that his very life depended on keeping me pleased, and right he was. I quickly emptied my second drink, and then took the glass and used it as a hammer, in order to crush the fingers of the loathsome scumbag bleeding down the deck. One by one I pulverized his bones, slowly. I visualized the agony and pain that he was going through. That aroused me. At this point, the miserable sod looked more like an uncooked meatloaf than anything that could be considered as remotely human. Suddenly I became aware of a pressure that had built up in the area containing my bladder, and I relieved myself on what was once his face. There was no reaction. I realized that the worthless little piece of shit had cheated me and fainted. That really insulted me. An axe was hanging on the wall next to the fire extinguisher. I took it and buried it into his skull, into the skull of the creature lying before me. I felt the taste of grain thrust on my tongue, and I was pleased. The fire within me slowly started to go out, and I sat myself down at the bar, and I ordered yet another drink. He had got what he deserved, and I got what I needed. There was still a few hours before the transport would reach its destination. I intended to use that time in the best way I could. The harbor police would undoubtedly be waiting for me at arrival. I didn't. I was pleased. I took another sip of the drink and I smiled.